The ball slams against the floor as Michael Jordan dribbles hard to his left, the clock above the backboard flashing red numbers that are disappearing second by second, the noise of the crowd turning into a strange blur as his mind sharpens and focuses, sweat running down his neck while his breathing stays controlled. 5 seconds left and the defender moving closer, trying to guess his next step. Michael lowers his shoulders, feels the strength in his legs, remembers this exact feeling from 1,000 lonely practices. He fakes right, stops suddenly, and rises into the air with a motion so natural it feels automatic. The ball leaves his hand with perfect rotation, and time seems to slow as it travels toward the rim. Then the buzzer sounds and the net snaps clean. But instead of celebrating immediately, Michael lands and turns away, because his thoughts are not here, not in this arena, not in this moment of victory. His mind travels backward to a small bedroom where a teenage boy once sat in silence, staring at the floor, holding a letter in his hands that said, he was not good enough, not tall enough, not ready. That boy was Michael Jordan too, and the pain of that rejection never truly left him. It followed him into every gym, every practice, every game, shaping the way he worked and the way he thought. People watching this shot will later say it was destiny or talent or magic, but Michael knows better. He knows this moment was built from frustration, anger, and refusal to quit. Because years before this shot, he stood in a school gym listening as a coach read names from a list, and his name never came. The sound of that silence was louder than any crowd, and that silence stayed with him, pushing him to wake up earlier than others, to train longer, to demand more from himself. And even now, as his teammates rush toward him and cameras surround him, he feels that old memory burning quietly inside, reminding him that every great moment in his life exists only because he once failed, because rejection did not stop him but shaped him. And, as he walks off the court, Michael understands something very clearly. The story did not begin with a winning shot or a championship celebration. It began with disappointment, and everything that follows is a response to that single moment when he was told he was not enough. Michael Jordan was 15 years old when rejection first changed the direction of his life. Standing in a school gym with polished wooden floors and cold metal benches, listening carefully as the coach slowly read names from a paper, each name landing like a stamp of approval, each pause making his chest tighter until the list ended and his name was never spoken. And in that moment the gym felt too big and too empty at the same time. People around him were smiling and celebrating while Michael felt frozen, trying to understand how something he loved so deeply could suddenly push him away. Teachers and coaches told him he was too short, not strong enough, not ready for this level, and he nodded politely, even though every word burned. That night at home, he locked himself in his room, sat on the bed, and finally let the disappointment break through, asking himself if effort really mattered, if dreams were only for others. But when morning came, something inside him refused to stay quiet. Before school, he went outside alone and began to train, running until his lungs hurt, shooting until his arms shook, missing more than he made but learning from every mistake. Days passed and then months, and while other kids played games or rested, Michael returned to the court again and again, slowly growing stronger, faster, more confident, turning rejection into routine and routine into discipline. And when he finally earned a place on the team the next year, he was different. Not just better, but sharper, playing every minute as if it could be taken away. Coaches noticed his intensity. Teammates felt his energy. And Michael understood something important. Very early, talent could open a door, but only work could keep it open. This lesson followed him to college at North Carolina, where pressure increased and expectations grew. Arenas were louder, defenders smarter, but Michael stayed focused, trusting the work he had done when nobody was watching. And when he hit the championship-winning shot as a college freshman, people began to talk about his future, calling him special, calling him fearless. But Michael knew that fear never disappeared. He simply learned how to move forward with it, and when the NBA draft arrived, he believed the hardest part was still ahead, because proving yourself once is never enough. You have to do it again at the highest level. The NBA welcomed Michael Jordan with speed, strength, and reality. Defenders were bigger, games were faster, and mistakes were punished without mercy. Yet Michael adapted quickly, scoring with ease, jumping higher than most, exciting fans night after night. But excitement did not mean success, because winning required more than individual brilliance. And year after year the Chicago Bulls fell short in the playoffs, each loss leaving a deeper mark, especially against the Detroit Pistons, a team that played with force and intention, pushing Michael to the floor, hitting him in the air, testing not just his body but his will. Those games were painful and frustrating, and many people wondered if Jordan could ever lead a team to a championship. Instead of responding with words, Michael responded with change. He entered the weight room and rebuilt his body, adding strength to survive contact. He studied film to understand angles, timing, and space. He learned when to pass, when to trust teammates, when leadership meant listening instead of scoring. Slowly, the Bulls evolved, becoming tougher, smarter, more connected. Losses still came, but they taught lessons. And when Chicago finally defeated Detroit, the victory felt quiet but powerful. Like crossing a line that once seemed impossible, Michael did not celebrate wildly. He understood that this was not the destination, but the beginning, because breaking through resistance reveals what lies beyond it, and beyond that moment waited championships, pressure, and a level of expectation that would test him in new ways, transforming him from a star player into the center of an entire era. Championship success arrived with force as Michael Jordan and the Chicago Bulls dominated the league, winning titles and setting standards that felt unreachable to others. Michael became a global figure, his image appearing everywhere, his shoes becoming symbols of ambition, and the name Air Jordan turning into a movement. Yet behind the celebration, the pressure never disappeared. Winning once created expectation. Winning again created obligation. And after 3 championships in a row, Michael felt exhausted both physically and emotionally. Then tragedy struck when his father was murdered, a loss that cut deeper than any defeat on the court. Basketball suddenly felt empty, and Michael made a decision that shocked the world. He walked away, choosing baseball, choosing silence, choosing distance from the spotlight. Critics questioned his decision and doubted his ability to succeed again, but time away allowed him to heal and reflect. And when he returned to basketball, he returned with clarity and purpose. His game was calmer, his leadership stronger, and his focus sharper. The Bulls responded, winning 3 more championships and completing a run that defined an era. 6 finals, 6 victories, no defeats on the biggest stage, a record that felt unreal, but even dominance has limits. And eventually Michael understood it was time to step away again, leaving the game not because he had nothing left to prove, but because he had given everything he had. When Michael Jordan finally retired for good, the noise slowly faded, but his influence remained everywhere, in the way players trained, in the way competition was understood, and in the belief that effort could shape destiny. His story was never about perfection, because he failed often and learned publicly. He was demanding, intense, sometimes difficult, but always honest in his pursuit of excellence, and that honesty is why his legacy continues. He showed the world that failure is not the opposite of success, but its foundation, that discipline outlasts talent, and that true confidence is built through work, not words. The famous shots in championships will always be remembered, but the real story lives in unseen moments. Early mornings, lonely gyms, painful losses, and quiet decisions to continue when stopping felt easier. Michael Jordan became more than a basketball player. He became proof that greatness is constructed step by step, through rejection, persistence, and refusal to accept limits. And long after the last shot stopped playing on screens, the lesson remained clear. Success is not given, it is earned, and every setback carries the power to shape something legendary if you choose to keep going. Michael Jordan sits back in his chair, crosses his arms, and looks at the room the same way he once looked at defenders, calm but sharp. And when he begins to speak, his voice is steady, not loud, not dramatic, because confidence does not need to shout. He says people often ask him about talent, about jumping high or scoring points, but those things were never the secret. The real secret was how he approached every single day, how he never allowed himself to feel comfortable, how he treated practice with the same seriousness as the final seconds of a championship game. He explains that he hated laziness more than losing, because losing could teach you something, but laziness meant you refused to learn. And when he saw players who did not run hard, who did not focus, who waited for others to carry them, it made him angry, not because he wanted to be mean, but because he believed everyone on the team had a responsibility. He says he pushed teammates hard, sometimes too hard, demanding effort, demanding discipline, demanding honesty. And he knows some people called him difficult or unfair, but he did not believe in protecting feelings more than protecting standards. He believed that if you accept weakness, it grows, and if you challenge it, it can disappear. Michael admits he was never patient with excuses. If someone said they were tired, he reminded them that opponents were tired too. If someone said it was not their role, he reminded them that winning belongs to everyone. He explains that respect is not given for talent alone. It is earned through work, and that is why he respected players who tried even when they failed, but had no respect for those who were lazy. Because effort is a choice, he says his character was built by pain, by rejection, by moments when nobody believed in him. And because of that, he promised himself he would never waste a day, never waste a practice, never waste an opportunity. Michael looks around and finishes with a simple thought. Success is not about being better than others. It is about being honest with yourself, pushing yourself when it hurts, and refusing to lower your standards just to feel comfortable, because comfort creates weakness, and weakness never wins championships. Michael Jordan smiles slightly when the conversation turns to money, because he knows many people expect a different answer. They expect stories about luxury, fast cars, and careless spending. But he explains that growing up without much taught him to respect money instead of chasing it. He says big contracts never changed the way he woke up in the morning or the way he looked at himself, because money was never the goal. It was a tool, and tools must be used carefully. Michael explains that he watched many athletes lose focus when money arrived too fast, buying everything but building nothing, and he promised himself he would not let success control him. He learned early that a sports career is short, but life is long, so he focused on creating stability beyond the court. He talks about choosing partnerships wisely, not jumping at every offer, but thinking long-term, building brands, investing, and creating passive income that would work even when he stopped playing. He explains that real wealth is freedom. Freedom to choose, freedom to say no, freedom to give back, and giving back was always important to him. Michael speaks seriously when he talks about charity, about helping children get education, about supporting communities that lacked opportunity, about using his name and resources to open doors for others. He says he never saw charity as a way to look good, but as a responsibility. Because success means nothing if it lifts only one person, he explains that staying grounded was easier because he never forgot where he came from. The small gyms, the rejection, the empty practices, and those memories protected him from arrogance. Michael finishes by saying that money should never replace discipline, because without discipline, money disappears, but with discipline it multiplies, not just in numbers, but in impact. And that is why he believes the greatest achievement of his career is not how much he earned, but how wisely he used it to build a future. To help others and to stay true to himself long after the cheering stopped.